Then bring your personal needs and requests before God. Go ahead and throw them down there, things you just want to keep coming back and expecting answers on. Prayer for reconciliation and healing relationships. Prayer for God to break down strongholds of evil. Well, that's something we don't think about much in the oral holiness tradition. But we ought to. This is spiritual warfare we're in. Can I give you a secret? Satan hates your guts. He hates your marriage. He hates your children. He hates your church. He wants to bring them down. He at least wants to make them mediocre. But if he could just dissolve the whole thing, he's going to try. And so I'd be praying for it. And I'd be praying for my church. And I'd be praying for my school. And I'd be praying for people who I've submitted myself to, because Satan hates them. Celebrate your life in God and worship Him. And then enter into that quiet wonder thing. You could revise that, I'm sure, to make it fit something that you feel is even better. At least better for you. But the whole point is, get a method. Could you leave that method in any particular prayer time and do something else? You bet. But it's not bad to have something to go to. Jesus had something to go to. You know this, right? What did Jesus do? You know what Jesus did with his prayer life?
He would often withdraw to a solitary place by himself to commune with the Father.
I would show you right now, except I don't have the prop that I wanted to bring, so I'll show you tomorrow. Jesus had a prayer life, and he did something specific with that prayer life. Jesus had a method. So it's not bad to have a method, but we also know this. Jesus did just what you said. He would go off. So he added to, and sometimes would alter the method, but always he had a method. And that's called ritual. And we ought to affirm rituals. We don't serve ritual as a God, but if rituals can help us come to Jesus, I want to be all about rituals. And so we'll talk more about that. This prayer life thing is huge, and I want you to make it a steady diet of your life, not just for this class, but to figure out how you can do this with your life and how you can do it with your congregation's life and with your family's life. It's an exceedingly important thing. Some questions or comments here. Anybody want to bring something up with this particular emphasis here, the prayer emphasis of this class?
You said E. Stanley Jones, there was only twice that the voice.
Well, that's what he says. I actually got the statement, I think, we'll read eventually in class.
How did he come to the conclusion that he was wrong and all the other ones were right? Was it just...
I think the fruit of the obedience. When he would obey, a godlike fruit came out of that moment. That's how he asserted that. We'll actually read here in a few moments that little part.
What's the name of the book about E. Stanley Jones? Is that just what it's called? E. Stanley Jones? I like to read the book.
Oh, well. Boy, you came to the right guy. I love Stanley Jones. There's two books that would be wise to use. He has a spiritual autobiography. Remember the name of this thing, Mark? His spiritual autobiography. If you look up E. Stanley Jones' spiritual autobiography, it'll come right up for you at Amazon. And he also has, I think his best book, or a very refreshing book, is Christ of the Indian Road. Now, there's some things about Stanley Jones that, I wouldn't throw up a red flag, but maybe a pink one occasionally. He does not love the Old Testament like I love it, apparently. But, I just think he's brilliant.
The Song of Ascents.
Song of Ascents. Spiritual autobiography. So read that. That tells you about his life, tells you about his time at Asbury, and going on into ministry. And then Christ of the Indian Road is he had been in India for some years. He wrote this book in 1928, I believe, and that's what he had some great name for himself after that, and wrote probably 30 books, maybe more after that. And everything he's ever published, I've tried to get and read it. So it's good, really good stuff. Yeah.
This is kind of going off of Heidi's question. How you said, there's only 2 times that he was wrong.
That's what he says.
Yes. Is there a timeline on that? Because if you think, okay, was that when he first started out getting to know the voice of God? Because typically I would say there is a process for a person to start recognizing the voice of God to where they do it on a consistent basis. I mean, is he saying like
Yes.
the very first time he started, he only missed it twice?
I don't know
or-
about the exactitude of that statement.
Because I mean, that could really be confusing if you think, well, because then someone else could do the same thing, and so they're acting on everything, and they make like 200 mistakes. For
I'm
instance.
assuming if you'd start this off that you're not as spiritually attuned as E. Stanley Jones, and you might make
Yeah.
36 mistakes, or maybe 100 mistakes in the next 10 years. Is it worth making 100 mistakes in the next 10 years, as long as one of them in who you marry, or but 100 mistakes to really hear and know and act upon the voice of God? I think it's worth those mistakes. I've been an athlete long enough to know. You always hear about these athletes. He needs more repetitions in practice, more chances to feel the ball, hit his hands, more chances to hand it off, more chances to throw it. The more you do that, the better quarterback you get to be. Same thing with any position, same thing with any sport. The same thing goes along, I think, with prayer and with hearing the voice of God. So don't get all messed up in, boy, I don't want to make too many mistakes. You'll make some mistakes. But when I give you Stanley Jones data here, there are 5 ways that he would say, do this, and you almost never make a mistake. Right? And some of it, is it consistent with the character of Jesus?
Okay.
Good questions. Somebody else? Anybody else?